Thanks everyone for taking the time to join us today for our celebration of Women's Equality Day. So, my name is Logan Joy. I'm one of the employee engagement coordinators for Teleperformance in the US, and I'm super excited to be able to be here today on Women's Equality Day to be able to recognize and celebrate this special day. So, before we actually get into the introductions of these amazing coworkers that I have here with me, I did want to kind of just talk a little bit about Women's Equality Day and what we had asked from our TP family to kind of help emphasize the importance of the day. But before I start that, I do also want to let you guys know if you're not able to finish this podcast or there's other podcasts that you would like to check out, I do encourage you to go and check us out on Spotify or YouTube. And if you're one of those people that would rather have a visual with it, please go ahead and go on there and watch the actual recordings. But you can also listen to them on Spotify. Now, for Women's Equality Day, for those of you that don't know, it is today, August 26th. We celebrate it every year, and it's just to commemorate, the adoption of the 19th Amendment in 1920 that actually gave women the right to vote. So we all know that there's a lot of improvements and a lot of successes that have been made with gender equality, women's rights, but there's still a long way to go. And so this year, the theme for women's equality was actually gender equality today for a sustainable tomorrow. And equality starts with each of us. It's not one person that can make all the change in the world, but it can start with one person and one voice. So with so many changes revolving around women's rights, especially right now, we had asked our TP family to answer the question, if you knew then what you know now about women's equality, what would you go back and tell your younger self? We had received a lot of amazing responses, very heartfelt and empowering words from our employees, and it was just breathtaking. So, what we want to do today is just spotlight some of those top testimonials that we had received and really give them some recognition. So, I do want to go ahead and let everybody introduce themselves. So, I'm going to actually go ahead and hand it over to Katie.
I am Katie Anderson. I am one of your employee engagement specialists and COTW Citizen of the World ambassadors located in Killeen, Texas. I get the amazing opportunity to allow you guys, or I get to preempt to introduce this amazing board of individuals that we have joining us today. So, without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Audrey and allow everybody to introduce themselves.
Thanks, Katie. I am Audrey Thomas. I am the lead here in the US for the Employee Communications and Marketing team, and also co chair of TP Women and vice chair of TP Men. And then I also sit on the board of Asian at TP, an officer for our VERG group, which you'll get to meet all the leaders of these here coming up, and then assist with the Pride at TP and help out with the marketing for these other groups. So I luckily get to work with this huge group of individuals quite often. I bother them for many things, and I get to talk about a lot of cool stuff going on in the diversity world. And I'm going to hand it over to my co-chair for TP Women, Megan.
Hello, I'm Megan McGowan, Vice President of Operations, and as Audrey said, co-chair for USTP Women. I've been with TP for about 3 years now, and actually, I just also am in the process of taking over TP Women for CTSS. So I'm excited to take that on, and I'm definitely excited for this podcast. And I will hand it over to Monier Scott.
All right, thanks, Megan. Hello, everyone. My name is Monir Scott. I am the VP for TP Group. Um, for DEI, I work with all these folks here multiple times a day throughout all the days, and it's been a lot of fun supporting and assisting. I've been in this role for about a month and a half, almost 2 months. It's been pretty exciting and looking forward to being part of this podcast. And with that, I pass it over to my good friend Brenda Lee.
Thanks, Mo. Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me. I'm Brenda. I'm Global VP Global Strategic Partner Executive. I'm based out here in California. I am also the chair for Asian at TP and on the board for the local U.S. part of TP Women, as well as proud member of VERG and Pride and Latinx. I love all these groups that have come together, and very excited to be here today. And Louisa, I will pass over to you.
Thank you, Brenda. My name is Louisa. I'm super happy to be here. I just joined TP 3 months ago, and I'm a VP for Client Solutions within the banking and financial services industry. I'm also part of the board of the Latinx at TP community, so super engaged with all of the diversity and inclusion activities. And again, super excited to be here. Hand it over to you, Michael.
Thanks, Louisa. My name is Michael Archangel, and I'm your chair for Pride at TP here in the US. I'm also a collaborator for TP Vets, led by Bob, who I get the privilege of introducing next. And I'm super humbled to be part of this panel and partake in these testimonials. Take it away, Bob.
Hi there, everyone. Yeah, so Bob Williams. I've been with TP for 3 years now. I run the executive development for the group, and I have the utter honor of running the TP Veterans Employee Resource Group, which is absolutely superb. So thanks very much. Over to you, Patrick.
Thanks, Bob. Patrick Kukas, very nice to be here today. Looking forward to today and everything that we're going to do in the future together. I'm Executive Vice President of Client Solutions for our BFSI vertical globally. I'm also chair of TP Men, and I joined Teleperformance last year. So excited for today and what we've got in the future. Back to you, Katie.
Thanks, Patrick. So now what we're going to do is we're going to get into the testimonial portion, you guys. So everybody was asked if you knew then what you know now about women's equality, what would you tell your younger self? And I have to say, some of these testimonials that we are going to read, well, I believe they're all absolutely amazing and they're wonderful. But we are going to spotlight some, and I hope that you guys truly enjoy hearing about it. And we will have an open discussion after these testimonials are read. And we will get into some things. We're going to have a conversation. We're going to make some things happen. So with that being said, I am going to turn it over to Audrey Thomas, and she is going to get started with the first testimonial. Go ahead, Audrey.
All right. Thank you, Katie. So our first testimonial comes from Shauna Ryder, and I'm just going to jump right into it. It says, it took a lot of years of therapy to put a dent in repairing the damage that was caused by a severely abusive stepfather. In my early years of adulthood, I was not the strong-willed, independent woman I pride myself on being today. I didn't stand up for myself. I felt automatic defeat in the face of adversity. My confidence was non-existent. This resulted in unintentional complacency in the fight for equality. Today, having mostly overcome the trauma of my past, I'd like to simply tell my younger self, wake up and look at what is happening around you. Women have come a long way, but we still cannot back down. We have so much work to do, and we need to stand together and continue to fight for change and protect the rights of our grandmothers that our grandmothers fought to obtain. Educate yourself on the issues that affect women and join in the fight to fix it right now. Recent hits to women's rights have further proven that we cannot stand idly by and let a small percentage of people push for change. Be strong, be fierce, do not back down. We are not simply women, we are warriors. All right, and I think after me is Megan.
Thanks, Audrey. Yeah, I have the pleasure of reading Jenny's testimonial. So let me just jump into it. Dear Jenny, you're at an age of illusion and pureness. Due to the storybooks you're reading, Disney movies about fairy tales and damsels in distress, you'll be waiting for Prince Charming to save you. And you may not fully understand this letter. However, it's important that you keep this in mind. You've been thought to be a princess in a fairy tale. But what is true is that you can also be a fairy godmother when a friend is in need for help, a genie in a bottle when we attempt to fulfill all our expectations at once, and above all else, we are sometimes forced to be our own Prince Charming. Because a princess that respects herself can save herself. Know that as a woman, you have to work twice as hard as anyone else to be taken seriously. And this is going to make it that much harder. Sometimes people are going to assume everything you get is because you smiled at the right person. But the truth is, you obtained success because you earned it. through your work, hard work, and your dedication. Be like Mulan, the flower that blooms in adversity, because it is the rarest and most beautiful of all. Be like Pocahontas, that loves the rivers because you can't step into the same river twice. The water will always be changing and always flowing. Right now, you are in the Rapunzel stage. You will wonder for many years, when will your life begin? Fact is, your life is now. Think of it this way. While you are going through elementary school, middle school, up until you reach high school, you will be your own version of Rapunzel in your own tower. It is time to open your mind to possibilities and pursue your dreams. Hashtag have a dream, hashtag have a plan, hashtag believe in yourself, hashtag don't be scared. Don't be scared to fail, hashtag never give up, hashtag build around your values. It takes effort and love for what you do. You know your worth. And don't let the time or anyone stop you from reaching what you want to achieve in life. P.S. You will be the example to 3 little shining stars. So let this be your motivation to what you will achieve and your guide to bring them upright. And I am going to hand off to Mr. Monier Scott again.
Thanks, Megan. That was beautiful. And I had the honor and privilege to read for Christy Nagel. If I can go back in time and talk to my younger self, there are a few things I would want to tell her about women's equality. First, I would tell her that it's something worth fighting for, especially in today's culture and climate. Even though the battle can be long and difficult, it's worth to see women treated as equals. Second, I would tell her to never give up. In a world where women are still fighting for fairness in common spaces, it is important to reflect on how far we've come as well as how far we still have to go. It is important to bear in mind we are never alone in the fight. There are millions of women across the globe who are fighting for non-discrimination among genders. It is easy to get discouraged by the media, hubbub, but the issue simply cannot be ignored. Future generations depend on our responsibility to provide them with a better world. The third thing I would tell my younger self is to always stick up for yourself. There were things that can get a bit hairy. Confrontation is never fun or comfortable, but perspective needs to be prioritized in regards to something as important as gender equality. The battle you fight may just be tipping point to positive movement for women that follow in your footsteps. Finally, I would tell her that the fight for women's equality is an ongoing battle that requires the dedication of everyone regardless of gender. It is important to remember that we're all in this together and we each have a role to play. We must continue to support each other and work toward our common goal of equality for all. Kristen Nagel. And with that, I pass it to my good friend, Brenda Lee.
Thanks, Mo. I would love to share with you all the words from Gateria, which she shared with us was, what I know now that I would tell my younger self, that sometimes you'll be just too much for a man's world. Too smart, too beautiful, too strong, too much of something that'll make a man feel like less of a man, which will make you feel like you must be less of a woman. The biggest mistake you can make is removing the jewels from your crown to make it easier for a man to carry. Men of quality respect women's equality. Remember that and embrace that. And with that, I will pass over to Louisa.
Thank you, Brenda. So I'm going to read a letter that Gino wrote to his younger self. He says, Gino, I know you never thought much about women's equality since your parents got divorced when you were 6 or 7 years old, and your mom took the role of being the provider. Mom became a realtor and became successful. So I know you never grew up hearing your mom talking about women equality since her pay was commission-based and relied on her own efforts. I know you keep on hearing her telling your sister, you don't need no man, quite frequently. And now I think that stems from the traditional way of living where the father would go out and be a provider, and the woman would stay home, watch the kids, and rely on the husband to provide and have to put up with his ways. So I know it can be out of the norm to potentially see a woman as a provider, a leader, and to be equal. I would say, Gino, keep on respecting women as we equals, as human beings, and just know you can learn from anyone. Well, that was a great story. Thank you all. And Mike, handing over to you.
Thanks, Luisa. I had the privilege of reading from a Miss Anita Contreras. Dear younger me, I know right now you're too impatient to take the time to read a long letter, so I will try to keep it short and to the point. At this time, you've gone through a lot of trials, and life has not been what the average little girl has gone through growing up. I know you hate being called a little girl, so I will say young lady. Life has made you grow up faster than you should. Don't try to grow up faster than you need to. Don't be in such a hurry. Trust me, you won't miss a thing. You have gone through enough to know the world is not a fairy tale. I hope this letter reaches you and can help you get through life's roller coaster a bit easier. It's Women's Equality Month, and this is what I'd like you to know about how far we have come. People have many reasons to be happy, even through hard times. And yet, there are so many people who live unhappy lives. There are so many people starving in this world, yet there has never been so much food. Technology has improved in a medical world, yet there is so much more disease. You are growing up in a world where people are classed as wealthy, middle class, and poor. The way the economy is going, there will be no such thing as a middle class and only wealthy and poor. Don't let these things get you down. Even though life is not a fairy tale, there is still a little magic in the world. Anywhere and everywhere you go, you can still change the world the way you think you can. Why? Because you are a woman in the greatest country in the world. Women have never been stronger, and yet it's never been harder to be a woman. As you read in the history books about women's rights and equality, and as you experience life as a woman, you will see that women have been treated as second-class citizens and not entitled to full rights and privileges where it matters in this world, such as in business, where only 5% of the CEOs are women. However, the gender gap has narrowed, and slowly but surely, women have become stronger. I believe this started when women were granted the right to vote in 1920. I cannot stress enough, no matter how much it may seem like it doesn't matter, and how much it may seem like your vote does not count, it does. So vote when it's time to vote. The women before you fought and sacrificed for the right, so use it. In 1973, before you were born, August 26 was commemorated as Women's Equality Day. I mention this so that you can take pride in being a woman, not only a woman, but a Latina woman. Don't let anyone make you feel less because you are a woman, no matter the circumstances you will face. Though women are still lagging in business, and your dream is to become a business owner and have the time and money to help people, be a servant leader and a great influencer, women have advanced in many leadership positions. And as a woman in this great country, the land of the free, and where others look to call home, it is not impossible to influence the masses as a leader in business and as a woman. Currently, the public is divided over whether the country has made adequate progress in giving women equal rights with men. Half of Americans say the country hasn't gone far enough. Others say the country has gone too far. The role of a woman as family breadwinners has grown dramatically in recent decades. Even as women who are single moms like us, I know it's not what we wanted, but it's okay. We still come out on top. Women are also twice as likely as men to say that they've experienced a form of gender discrimination at work. Statistics show that women make up 47% of the US labor force. Currently, it's stagnated. It is said that in the coming decade, things will not change much. Women will continue to make up slightly less than half the labor force. Why? Simply put, the world is not yet ready for the new age of women. You will understand what I mean by the time you grow up, but it's something men do not have. There is so much more I can touch on regarding us women today and how far we have come, but as I said, I will try to keep this short. It is the month of August, and not only are we celebrating our birthday, but also how incredible it is to be a woman no matter the circumstances. We were built to handle it and so much more. Girl, you are a Latina woman. Be proud of yourself before being proud of anyone else. You must be your number one fan. Never give up on your goals, your dreams. Keep fighting the fight. Keep on keeping on. Yes, you will fail and fall at times, but never see failure as failure, but only the game you must play to win. Your big you sends you a big hug from the top of your dreams that are slowly but surely coming true. I'll see you at the top because the bottom is too crowded. With lots of love from your big you, Anna. Super sweet. Bob, the next one.
Well, thank you, Michael. Thanks very much indeed. So I'm reading the words of Alfredo. I would tell myself that women's equality is very important, and recognizing it wasn't until the 26th of August 1973 when US Congress championed a bill that eventually led to Women's Equality Day. The 19th Amendment gave the right to women to vote in August 1920. Just to put this into perspective, it was not that long ago that women did not have the right to vote. It has been over 100 years from today, and there are still women alive today from that generation. After 1920, women still had limited rights and were treated as second-class citizens and were not entitled to the full rights, privileges, public or private, legal or institutional, which were made to their male counterpart citizens of the United States. It was not until literally 1971 when the representative Bella Azug passed the US Congress bill on the 26th of August, designated as Women's Equality Day. This was the culmination of a massive, peaceful civil rights movement by women that went back to 1848 at the first Women's Rights Convention. With the perseverance and grit of women, women's rights in 2022 have evolved from not having rights to vote to having a female vice president in the White House. We have women serving in the United States Armed Forces. We have women in professional sports, basketball, softball, volleyball, and we have a US women's soccer team that are the world champions and have won 4 grand titles. We have women doctors, engineers, astronauts, congresswomen, and we have women senators, but the fight is far from over. Women's rights are still a constant battle for equality in 2022. Women still earn, on average, 17% less than men. This fight is for everyone, not just women. One of these days, we'll have a woman president, and then we'll be able to break the glass ceiling, and finally, we will look back to all those women like Alice Paul and Crystal Eastman, who started the women's suffragette movement in 1923, and thank them from the bottom of our hearts for starting this fight. Thank you very much. I'm going to hand over to Patrick now.
Thanks, Bob. I am going to read from Davina and How Far She's Come. I was 7 the first time I got called fat. It was my grandfather who didn't notice that all summer long I would eat, but then grow an inch taller. All he could fascinate himself on was the fact that I ate more than my sibling. Wow, chunky girl. We're feeling extra hungry, are we? My babysitter was next, giving all the boys a second peanut butter and jelly sandwich during lunch. We had all been running, swimming, and biking for hours in the sun. I asked eagerly for another sandwich and was informed girls should limit what they eat before they get too heavy for boys to like. It engraved in my memory, turning my stomach. I would go on to skip seconds or desserts, watching how much I took in before allowing myself another bite. I remembered my boy cousins would eat all they wanted without anyone batting an eye, but if I went for seconds, I'd get glares from the aunties who muttered to one another as if I weren't in the room. I started to notice other differences unfold in front of me as I continued to grow up. Things I had done my whole life were now not seen as ladylike, such as dirt, bugs, certain toys. Girls must be proper. They like pink, they like dolls, they like dresses and tea parties. I didn't mind that. I liked the girly things too. But I couldn't understand why when it came to the boys playing football, my elected would huff. Be easy on the girls, they would say, as if I were delicate. It used to infuriate me. I could play if I wanted to. I could be just as strong as they were. I didn't want to be different. I wanted to be them. A few years later, I was now 12. The girls' soccer league didn't have enough girls, so others went to volleyball or cheerleading, and the league was disbanded. I didn't want another sport. I played soccer for 5 years and I was devastated. I remembered crying to my mom that it wasn't fair. Girls should be allowed to play too. I was lucky. My mother fought for me. I was placed on one of the boys' teams. Other teams would laugh when they saw a girl join the field with the boys. Coaches, referees, players, they were all the same. Take it easy on the girl, okay? Don't hurt her. She's fragile. We don't need to guard her, just double team on somebody else. I let it fuel me. I fought harder, played harder, and was more bullheaded than any of the other players. I learned quickly that women were seen as gentle little flowers and held beneath men. I was taught by social standards that women were better seen but not heard. That if you didn't wear makeup, nice clothes, you were considered not trying hard enough. You might not be feeling well or even tired. That women weren't beautiful without a thigh gap and single-digit jeans. Name brand was a necessity, and long hair was best. Men liked pretty nails, but don't be too bold with those nails. Men don't like women that are too far out there. Be intelligent but silent, and agree with your spouse. At 16, I had a substitute teacher lecture our class. Women were meant to keep a house clean, he said. That we should all know how to have a meal ready on the table, a clean house, and well-maintained children before your husband even arrives home. You have nice wide hips, he said. You'll be a perfect mother because of your body was made for birthing, he told me. I remember sitting with a pit in my stomach that all I would ever amount to was a trophy wife, that my studies, my art skills, my athletic ability was for nothing. Don't get me wrong, I wanted to be a mother, but on my own terms. I drove myself to strive beyond what older men thought women should be. I applied myself to all of my studies, winning art shows, recognized by our governor and state representatives. I was class treasurer, president of the Quiz Bowl, art club treasurer, and any other team that I could join. I was determined to be more than the stereotypes I saw in the magazines. It breaks my heart to say I let all these things affect me for too long. I starved myself, skipping meals and making myself vomit when needed. Who needed carbs when you could be thin? I graduated high school weighing 86 pounds. However, despite my starving self, I let other aspects thrive in my life. I graduated in the top 15 students in my grade with an honor from high school and diploma in art. I had a car, a job, and a nice place to live. I pushed myself to be the most independent version of myself that I could be. I learned that you could be both beautiful and a size 12. Stretch marks were beautiful, so were hip dimples, cellulite, and curves. But most importantly, you could be both a mother and live an important life. I'm only 22 now and a team lead on my project. I'm a full-time employee, but a 24/7 mother. I'm a woman. I'm strong, confident, bold, beautiful, and for once, loving life. I will never let myself be heartbroken over social standards or skinny women with hip dips. And to all the little girls out there, you are beautiful no matter what your size is. You can all play with dolls and G.I. Joes, football, or cheerleading. We are made for the world that is so much more than the social constructs shown to us on TV. We were made to be teachers, bosses, business owners, politicians, and whatever it is in your heart to be. Davina. And Logan, with that, I'll turn it back to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Patrick, and everybody for reading those meaningful testimonials. As you guys can see, there is definitely a lot of personal emotions that were put in to the words that our employees allowed us to receive from them. And I think it's absolutely amazing that they were able to be so personable and really tell how they felt. And that's exactly what we want is for people, because not everyone is ready to voice their opinion. And that's kind of where it comes in that we all have to be in this together. And sometimes you have to be the voice for someone else that's not ready to be heard. So I actually do want us to read one more testimonial, and actually Monier Scott, he is going to read Audrey Thomas's testimonial from our TP Women. She is the chairperson, and of course, she's already introduced herself. But I did think it would be an amazing contribution to allow us to hear Audrey's heartfelt response, because it is just absolutely breathtaking, and I completely appreciate her allowing us to kind of showcase it on this call as well. So Mo, if you want to go ahead and take it over and let us hear what Audrey had to say.
Absolutely. Thanks, Logan. One thing I want to say before I start is it takes a lot of courage to write this stuff down and to share it with the world. And so I just first want to thank everyone who participated and allowed us to share your truths. I have the unique opportunity to share the truth of a friend of mine who I have come to be really close to. And I'm really honored to be able to speak her words in this forum. Audrey Thomas. If I can go back and speak to my younger self with the knowledge that I have now about women's equality, first and foremost, I will tell her to keep fighting. Don't take for granted the privileges and rights that you have now, because at any moment they may be fighting all over to keep them. But also, don't settle for those rights. Don't feel like you should be grateful just to have the bare minimum of equality. You deserve more than the bare minimum. It's not going to be handed to you. Work day in and day out for a better and more equal world for yourself. Hold your head high and leave no room for others to doubt you. I promise you'll do enough of that for yourself. Own your choices, your mistakes, your failures, but most importantly, celebrate your wins, your accomplishments, and all the things you do right. Don't feel like you aren't allowed to fail, but also don't feel like you're less than if you do, because we all do. That's how we learn and grow. Don't feel guilty for succeeding. You are no less of a woman, a mom, a wife, a friend, a sister, a daughter, because you put yourself first. Chase your dreams and bring everyone you love along for the ride. There will be late nights, long days, and moments of pure exhaustion when you feel like giving up. Never give up. You owe yourself more than that. Be a woman's woman. So many of us stuck in the notion that there can only be so many women at any given table, and they become our competition. Your only competition is the woman you were yesterday. Be the type of woman that can help another adjust her crown without telling the world that it was crooked for a second. Raise other females up with you, because dragging them down to elevate yourself says a lot more about you than it does them. Finally, push for a world you want to raise a daughter in. Fight for all the things you want her to have that you don't. Make decisions based on how it will affect not only you, but the next generation of girls you are paving the path for. Do everything in your power to make sure your daughters aren't still having the same conversations when they are our age. Prove to them that women are the most powerful creatures that exist, and remind them every single day that they also carry the fire inside of them. Miss Audrey Thomas. And with that, I will give it back to Logan.
All right, so we are actually going to go ahead and open up for discussion and just kind of talk about the testimonials. I know that a lot of them had some very emotional points, and I could definitely tell just by the look on everybody's face that we could really feel exactly what they were saying and how much it meant to them to be able to actually have someone hear it, and like some of these had mentioned over and over and over again, it's not just women that can make the difference. It's everyone. It's men. It's everyone that has to make that difference, because you might have, a daughter. We all have mothers. There's so many different ways that we can all make a difference and start to take the charge to allow it to be gender equality. And at some point, hopefully in life, we're not fighting for women's equality anymore. But right now, that's kind of where we are. And all of these testimonials hit so many valid points. And I can't even I can't even fathom how thankful I am for everybody just coming together and just giving us a piece of their heart in these testimonials. And Audrey, since you are on the call, I want to thank you personally, because yours is absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for being so honest in your testimonial.
I'll be really honest. It was hard for me at first when I sat down and thought about writing it. But once you and Katie's the one that actually pointed this out to me, because you all know me. I had like 3 people read it before I let Logan put it anywhere. Um, it it was meant to be, what I would tell my younger self, but I also kind of realized it's what I would tell my daughter. These are, I have a 10-year-old daughter, and this is exactly the way I try to raise her and the things I try to tell her. So I don't think, a lot of us are just talking to our younger selves. I think we're talking to the little tiny people we are bringing up in this world.
Absolutely. Nieces, nephews, all of that. Yeah, if you don't have kids, it's directed towards somebody. And I think that's exactly what I was kind of seeing when I read a lot of these too.
I think there's a lot to be said about the strength that comes from being vulnerable and sharing pain and struggle and insecurities is difficult. And I think it's easy to be perceived as complaining or whining. But in moments like this, you realize how strong it makes you to overcome it, but to also empower others to be their most vulnerable self and to bring that whole self to each and every conversation, to not feel shame about something that we've had to overcome, but to bring pride in what we've moved forward in our experiences with. And it's beautiful, and it's inspiring. So I hope that everyone listening realizes that if there's a secret or something that has held you back, you can let it go. And you can let it go privately, or you can let it go in one of the ERGs. And we're all here rooting you on to be your best self.
And Mike, if I can add a comment to it, whenever we do it publicly, right, it has an impact on younger generations, as Audrey was saying. And I have an example at home. I have a 9-year-old sister. Actually, I have lots of siblings, but the youngest one is 9 years old. And she is all into short hair. She likes to play soccer. And the boys at school call her a boy and make fun of her. And she has seen from me and my sisters that we're doing different from our parents. And we actually try to empower ourselves, exactly what we're doing right now. And one day she got home and she actually wrote a letter to herself saying, hey, you are strong, you're beautiful, don't care about those silly boys at school. And she wasn't even 9 back then, she was like 7. So whatever it is that we do now, we're teaching by example to younger generations as to how they should look at themselves. And if we can teach them to be more generous towards themselves, right? Because it's easy to be generous with other people, but when it comes to self-love and self-generosity, it's much harder. And if we can teach them and do it ourselves, we're definitely leaving our seeds for a better world.
I 100% agree with that.
I think I'd just come in on sort of like the stale male pale guy that I am, who's never had any. I've always been at the top of the pile. No one's ever discriminated against me. I'm the lucky one. I really am. And I just want to pick up on the fact that it came through that this isn't a woman's battle. This is absolutely everyone's battle. And I do a lot of podcast listening, and I listened to one the other day, and it was much more about racism and things like that. But when they said something about being anti-racist, we should be anti-inequality. And the podcast was saying that in the same way that we're all anti-burglary, we will not tolerate anyone burgling our neighbor or anything like that. We have to approach inequality with that same lens that we would that we would never put our arms around anyone who would steal from another person's home. And I think when the people like me, who have, sat at the top of that pyramid for so long, completely incorrectly, when they realize that they will fight for anti-inequality, I think that then, we have everyone on board. And as I say, for me, the big aha moment here was that this is absolutely not a woman's battle. This is absolutely everybody's battle, and we all have to step up to the plate here and really, bring it home.
I think sometimes we take for granted these moments of impact. We talk about this in business a lot, right? Moments of impact with customers, clients, peers. A lot of the stories, testimonies that we heard have compounded over years or decades for a lot of women. And we always talk about, consistency, right? So you want to drive consistency in life, consistency in business. That's how you have good habits most of the time. But I think that when we listen to this, it's even more important that, and Bob, this was kind of going off of what you were saying, this just has to be something that is what it is, right? The way that we act towards each other, towards ourselves. I have a 2.5-year-old daughter. Today was a very emotional day for me listening to this. I never had to deal with a lot of this. I'm horrified and I'm empowered, I think, for the type of father I want to be for her, the type of dad I want to be for her. And sometimes those are different things. But also that it needs to be consistent, because just like a business meeting, just like a conversation with a spouse, a friend, something like that, sometimes it just takes a moment to make that moment of impact. And it could be a positive moment of impact, and it could be a negative moment of impact that impacts the people that are around you or those that you want to influence. And so I think one of the things that is the big takeaway for me is that, and Logan, I think you talked about this a little bit at the beginning, eventually we don't want to have to come to a forum like this or go to other forums where here we are today, we're talking about this. It is what it is. And all of a sudden you stop to hear about that. And it's much more about just the way that we treat each other, the way that we treat those around us, the way that we treat ourselves from an empowerment perspective. So today, that was a big takeaway for me, just listening to this, these moments of impact, and how important it is just to drive consistency, muscle memory for ourselves, how we talk to our teams, how we talk to our peers, how we talk to our family and friends, how we listen to them as well. And understand that sometimes they are these moments of impact, and they'll sit there. And I think that was something that was important for me listening to today from all the peers that talked here, and obviously those folks that wrote these words. And you start reflecting as well on recent conversations that you were a part of or heard or anything like that, and where you can try to make that little bit of change and drive kind of that consistency on a daily basis. That was a big takeaway for me the last hour and a half, but it's something that I'm going to think a lot about going forward as well, having listened to these today.
And I just want to say, I think Davina's testimonial, I mean, I just feel like she's so brave. I think a lot of times women will either use humor for something, how many times have you heard someone joke about their weight or joke about, something that is serious to them, and, they feel. And I love how she just approached it straight on. And I feel like I'm inspired by her. And I think, I just think she's impressive, and I love her advice. I think any young woman can listen to that and know that if you hear any of those words, if you hear anything similar to this, look at her and how she's overcome it. And I want to meet her now. So yeah, I loved it. It was great.
Yeah, I know we're wrapping up. I just want to say really quickly, anyone out there listening, if you're listening to this podcast, you work for Teleperformance, we're all advocates. Everyone on this podcast is an advocate for you. These titles are just these worldly things that don't really mean anything. We're humans first, and we're people first. And so if you have a situation or you feel like you need someone to reach out to and you don't know who that is, you have a full group of advocates that you can see on this list that we're here for you. These titles don't mean anything. We're just people just like everyone else. And we have your backs, and we're a safe place for you. And I feel like I need to share that for someone who just needs to hear it.
Thanks so much, Mo. I'm so glad you said that because it really is. It's the power of this community, all of these communities that we're bringing here together. And I know we're here for Women's Equality Day, but I love just what Bob you were mentioning from the podcast. It's be anti-inequality,
Yes.
right? I mean, I don't fall in one bucket. A lot of most of us don't, right? We have many dimensions to who we are. Just look at these testimonials and stories that were shared here today. Just they are coming out to all of us for support and to strengthen us. So I think that there's a lot of power in that, and encourage everybody to reach out and know that there is a big community here at Teleperformance to support you.
Absolutely, you guys. Like I am over the moon right now. I know I've gotten a, chance to conversate, here and there, but I just like uh I'm a mom of 3 boys, and I am that mom. Like my boys are being brought up in today's society, so I am teaching my boys that it's not you're not better than anybody else, you're not over anybody else, you're not anything. So I literally am raising my boys like um, people have always been like, you have those conversations with your kids? Absolutely. I have those uncomfortable conversations. I have a 9, 10, and 11-year-old, and I have those conversations. My boys know that if they walk up behind a girl and like she's in some kind of situation, like you do what you can to help. Like you don't laugh, you don't turn your nose, you don't do none of that stuff. So to be part of this, yeah, I'm good. Like I don't need for anything else right in this moment. Like um and to hear you guys open up and actually be, I guess for lack of a better term, not superheroes. um and be human beings, and to hear the words that were spoke, like Davina's story is like my story. Like legit. Like that was my life. Um so Today was amazing. I hope that everybody that was on this call, everybody that is listening to this podcast, I hope that everybody gets something, takes something, something sparks, and you decide. To quote almost what I heard today from somebody is it doesn't take something big to make a big ripple, and even the little ripples go the same distance. Um, I don't think anything else could be more fitting than that. So you don't have to stomp around, you don't have to throw your weight around or throw your title around to make a ripple. Any little bit can make magic happen. So I will open it one more second if anybody has any last comments, questions, anything like that. And if not, I think we will leave it on an amazing note. Um, so does anybody else have anything else?
The only other thing I would say, Katie, is you kind of touched on it and it made me think about it is, we're talking about it has to be everybody that makes this change. And you said, you're raising 3 boys, you are that mom. I think that's a big takeaway from me from this today is as long as we have as many of those moms as we can raising, we're raising our daughters to fight and fight and fight, but you all are raising your daughter or your sons to where maybe they don't have to fight so much.
Yes.
And I mean, prime example of that, my daughter, I think all of you all know, my daughter plays travel basketball. And she started on a team last year with all girls. Um, and she moved her way up to a starting spot. And we had one of her little friends that originally was starting would it just changed their whole relationship. She started being mean to her at school. She wouldn't talk to her, wouldn't sit with her. She tried to sit with her at lunch one day. And Sophie was also playing pickup ball on a boys basketball team, to which she worked her way up and was starting for. And one of the little boys from that basketball team came and grabbed her from the lunch table and was like, "You can sit with us if you want to." The little boy whose starting spot she took. And it just made me realize that, that's the kind of boys we're raising these days. And I think that's just as big a piece of solving the problem as teaching our daughters to keep fighting. So thank you for being that kind of mom.
Absolutely. And you know what? By exactly saying that, Audrey, because I have two boys in my house and I have two girls, and a lot of times me and my husband will have the conversation. He's, oh, you're making them soft. You're making them soft. It's not about them being soft. It's not about that at all. It's just about just love everybody. You don't have to be stone. You don't have to be any of that. One kind word can make a huge difference. And just like you had said, just like Katie had said, we're the ones kind of shaping their future and explaining to them and showing them and giving them that example of how we would want everyone else to be treated, how we want their generation to be treated, how I want my daughters to be treated, and how I expect my sons to treat women. And it's I always constantly hear, oh, these boys are so soft, or these men are soft now. And it's not that at all. It has nothing to do with any of that. We are, if a man can show a sensitive side, or be kinder and not feel like they have to give that masculine front, then I feel like it just makes a world of difference, because then you're kind of opening that door to not just like one of the testimonials had said, it to be a leader, you have to have that masculine persona. And that's why women can't be leaders. Someone had mentioned that in one of the testimonials, and I thought about it for a while, and I get it. I do. But it's not about being masculine and putting the foot down and making people hear you or understand what you're saying, because it has to be put in a certain way. It's about coming across the right way. It doesn't have to be put in such a derogatory or a masculine tone, so you would say. It's just about how you go about putting the message out there, how you go about making the change.
I heard Miranda Collard, and I think she gets brought up on every single podcast that we do, literally. Because, I mean, you can hear her talk and you'll know why. But I heard her say something, I can't remember how long ago, when you're talking about leadership, and there's, especially females, there's a big difference. And Brenda heard this with me today. There's a big difference in aggressive and assertive. And assertive is showing up. Brenda, you might have to help me with the wording, but assertive is showing up for yourself, is taking up for yourself, and not letting someone push you around, and being a leader. And that's totally different from aggression. And I think that we need to learn the difference in those two things. And then even when you're talking about men being soft or not being able to show a sensitive side, like, that is, I'm looking at Patrick, like, that is exactly what we are going to talk about with TP Men. Like, that's not even, just something that we go through when they're talking about being sensitive or stuff like that. Like, men have issues like that also. They're not supposed to show that they can be sensitive. They're not supposed to sit here and get teared up listening to testimonials like this. And that's a stigma I feel like we have to break just as much as the one we're talking about today.
Absolutely agree.
And agree. 100%. 100%. Well, I don't know about y'all, but I think this is an amazing place to leave it for this one. What do y'all think?
I think this was an amazing discussion, and I
Yeah.
appreciate you guys so much for taking the time out of your day and just being open and honest and allowing us to have the conversation and really dig into these testimonials and showcase our employees that I can't. Some of these testimonials really gave such a deep dive into their personal feelings, just like Megan had mentioned Davina's. As soon as it hit the end of that one, she said she was 22. It was just,
Like,
I can't even
mind
imagine
blown.
at 22 years old giving my personal feelings like that. At 30, I can't. So I think
Yeah.
it was an amazing discussion today, and I appreciate you guys all for helping make this possible.
I
Absolutely.
also volunteered to go talk to that person on her behalf. So just
Right? Exactly. Like I told you, I'm that mom. I
I
have
got your back.
conversations.
I kept looking at the picture thinking
Message
she's
me.
got to be way older because
Oh,
Nobody treats people that young like that. But
Like
and,
that.
and that's the most disturbing part of it, was that, yeah, I was impressed that she was brave, but it made me more upset that, this is still happening, right? When she was
Right.
10 or whatever, like that makes
absolutely.
me sick. And but
Absolutely.
I'm inspired by her.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You guys, like, I think this was an amazing, amazing, amazing podcast. Again, we appreciate each and every one of you joining. Anybody that is listening to this call, understand that all of these ERGs are open and available to you. They are all each individually. We are all doing amazing things within our own, ERG, whether it's Pride at TP, Men at TP, TP Vets, TP Women, Black at TP, Latinx, Asian at TP. Like, I think I'm forgetting one, but if I am, somebody jump in and shout it out. But we are all doing amazing things. Like, I am grateful and thankful to have been a part of this. I am grateful to each and every one of you for taking the time out of what I know is your busy, super, super busy days to being a part of this. If you are listening and you weren't able to catch the whole podcast, you can catch it on Spotify, or you can actually rewatch the whole recording on YouTube as well. So feel free to jump on those and listen to it, because if you didn't get to hear all those testimonials, please, by all means, I feel that anybody and everybody can get something out of those testimonials. There will be more spotlighted, so be on the lookout for that. So just, there's some amazing things coming up.
I do want to just say hats off to TP Women, man. This is awesome. Great job. Great job. And thanks for allowing us to be a part of it. So appreciate it. All right,
Thank
y'all.
you guys. Thanks, you
you.
guys.
Thank
See
Appreciate
you,
y'all
you.
everyone.
later. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Till
you
next
so much,
time.
you guys.